What's up guys, I'm Phoenix Master 1 and welcome back for some more Fire Emblem Heroes, and this is going to be my comprehensive Fallen Edelgard analysis, review, and I'll also be going over the builds that you could run, how you could use her in different game modes, and at the end, how you can deal with her, because we certainly have to deal with her in Arena Assault, Aether Raids, because this banner does have a spark system and she's likely going to be getting a lot of reruns, and she's easily one of the strongest units in the entire game. So hope you all do enjoy that, and I want you all to help me beat another fallen unit known as YouTube algorithm by leaving a like and subscribing if you do end up enjoying these videos. So that said, let us begin. Fallen Edelgard is basically the star of this banner, and she's one of the best units in the entire game because of how versatile she is and how insanely strong she is. She's got a lot of effects going on with her preferred skill and weapon, which I'll be breaking down. So first of all, she is a colorless beast armor unit, and she's the second one after Mufasa. And she also has more BST in 184 BST, which means that her stat distribution is much better, and she basically dumps her entire speed stat for getting incredibly good mixed bulk and very high attack stat, and this allows her to function as a very strong unit in both phases. So Twin-Crest Power is her weapon, and this weapon has a bunch of text, and Armored Wall also has a bunch of text, so I'll be breaking this down into simpler format. So here basically we can see all of the effects in action. So Fallen Edelgard with her weapon and slot B skill basically has -1 special cooldown, which is really good for having 2-turn bonfires and having 4-turn Gale Force, and has got really good synergy with Armored Wall. Next up, she gets -6 attack and defense debuff on the foe using her weapon, which is also really good. She also has the Weary Fighter effect built into her weapon, which is absolutely amazing for a slow unit like her, and she will not really get doubled, but this also means that she is basically forced to one-shot units because she's not going to be able to double them naturally. Then it also has Raging Storm built into it, which is Legendary Edelgard's slot B skill, but unlike Legendary Edelgard's Raging Storm, it doesn't really require her to be solo. Instead, it requires her to be transformed in her beast form. And Raging Storm is basically going to be allowing you to have another action in the player phase, and this is what makes it so hard to bait out Fallen Edelgard, because most of the tanks, like, you can bait them out, but with Fallen Edelgard you have to make sure that you can take 2 attacks from her because of the Raging Storm, and it's just going to be giving you a free Gale Force basically. Then with the transformation, she's going to be getting +2 attack because beast weapons only have 14 might, and Distant Counter is also an effect that she's going to be getting upon transformation, which is really strong. Armored Wall does give you the Special Fighter, which is basically going to be a better Special Fighter because of its HP threshold, and it also heals you up for 7 HP after the combat, which makes it so that she's got really good synergy with her ideal skill. And then if she's transformed, then she gets 40% damage reduction on foe's first hit in the first combat of player phase or the enemy phase. And yeah, this is just the cherry on top. On such a defensive unit who has got Weary Fighter, Special Fighter, she gets damage reduction, flat damage reduction on top of that. Edelgard's transformation into a beast is going to be helping you with a lot of the effects, and I'll go more on that later on with the team composition. So overall, Fallen Edelgard is a really good unit with a lot of these effects that she has got going for her, as well as her min-max stat spread. I would definitely put her in the ranks of Brave Hector and Brave Edelgard, but that doesn't necessarily mean that she is better than them, because they still have some of the things which Fallen Edelgard does not. Brave Hector can double with his Malted and also has debuff neutralization, not to mention he doesn't have any armor weakness. Brave Edelgard on the other hand has got really good mobility for an armor unit and can double in both phases really well, and Black Eagle rule is really helpful with that. But still, Fallen Edelgard has got a lot of unique effects and a lot of things that can make her versatile in both phases, and that's basically her strength, and she's still a very good unit in her own right and among the best, like I said, in the game. So Fallen Edelgard ends up being one of those extremely busted units that you can just get the spark off, just get one copy of her. Even if you don't have a lot of investment merges on her, she's going to be a very strong unit, and she's going to be able to beat most of the in-game content, like just chain challenges, she can just solo them, and in competitive game modes like Arena Assault, she's going to be absolutely a very strong unit, and in Aether Raids, just as a one-off copy, she can function really well and help you against many kinds of teams, because she's got the Raging Storm in her weapon, which means that she has got really good player phase, and she's also really bulky. And even in many of the competitive game modes, you can definitely try to use a dragon. Like in the light season, we've got Mila, who can help her transform. And in the Aster season, we do have Naga, which can help you transform. And she can also give you the Divine Fang buff, which is going to be needed a lot of the times for dealing with Zeros, who's going to be a staple on most Anima defense teams. In Arena, many people might have dragon units in their core like Enna, Noe, Faye, all of those kinds of units. And even legendary units like Legendary Tiki and Legendary Karin can help her. And in Arena Assault, it's pretty easy for you to pick the allies with her so that she can easily transform. When you're going to be trying to use Fallen Edelgard yourself, definitely try to make sure that you use dragon allies and beast allies so that it's easier for her to transform. And if you have access to the armored dragons, then that is the best case scenario because they can provide her with the armor march buff and also let her transform right beside them. So the allies are a very important part of Edelgard. Of course, you can just keep her away from the allies, let her transform and use armored strike, but having those allies can definitely help in case you're trying to build that kind of team. For Fallen Edelgard's IVs, you should always try to go for the plus attack IV if you can because that's the super boon, and because of how Twin-Crest Power works, it does have Weary Fighter, which means that Fallen Edelgard will not be able to double. So your best bet is one-shotting units, and that's why plus attack IV is the best one. Of course, if you get plus resistance, that's not really too bad, but plus attack is pretty much the best IV for her if you're trying to use her a lot. If you get multiple Fallen Edelgards, then I would definitely suggest trying to merge her up because she's an insanely strong unit, and attack defense ideal is a decent skill, but it's not worthy enough to just fodder off a Fallen Edelgard for that. Definitely try to merge her up if you can. The Fallen banner featuring Fallen Edelgard does have a spark system, so after guaranteed 40 summons you can spark a Fallen Edelgard and get her guaranteed. The hype around her is going to be really strong right now, but if you are still on the fence, then do not feel pressured, especially if you do not have orbs, because she's definitely going to be getting reruns. She's going to be getting reruns in Legendary and Mythic Hero battles, and she might color share with really good units like Legendary Claude, for example. Not to mention Forging Bonds rerun do happen, and I cannot see how this Fallen banner would not win as soon as it's there on the Twitter poll. So Forging Bond rerun is going to be happening, which is also going to be having a spark system. And I think that she's definitely going to be reruns later down the line as well. So if you're on the fence and if you do not have orbs, then it's not like you have to summon her, especially if you're doing decently well in the game without her, especially in something like Aether Raids. Having her, of course, does help you and just gives you more tools. But if you have limited resources, especially as a free-to-play player, then yeah, she's going to be getting reruns later on as well. Right now, with the spark system and the incentive to get the Celestial Stone is a pretty good thing, and many people are going to be trying to spark her in this banner, which means that she's going to be really common. And speaking of that, let's go over some of the outlines and pointers on how you can deal with Fallen Edelgard, because you're absolutely going to be facing her in Arena and Aether Raids, so that is a given, especially in Arena and Arena Assault. So these are just going to be general suggestions, and it depends a lot on your unit stats, skills, their weapons, and the Edelgard that you're facing, who has got merges or not, what kind of support that she's got. So having these effects doesn't really mean that you're going to be able to win against her most of the time. It's definitely easier said than done, but these definitely help quite a lot. So having null follow-up in your weapon basically means that you're going to be able to still double her and just negate her Weary Fighter, which is really good. Bulky Armor Slayers can definitely be pretty helpful, but keep in mind she does have that 40% damage reduction, which can be really annoying. So even though you have got the effective damage, you cannot really get too comfortable. Beast Slayers like Petrine and Brave Eliwood can help, but in many situations and she's fully transformed and stuff like that, then even Petrine can struggle despite her beast effective damage. And she doesn't really have any kind of way of having a pre-charge special or something like that, and it's really hard for her to double. Brave Eliwood is going to be getting a weapon refine this year in a few months, so who knows, it might be really busted, and it could definitely help you. A lot of the units who have got Flash Effect, Firesweep Effect, Windsweep Effect, or Dazzling Staff Effect can really help you against Edelgard, because the way you can fight her in Arena Assault is, for example, if you have a Dazzling Staff unit, even if they do 0 damage, you basically attack her first and then get rid of her damage reduction, because it's only going to be active on foe's first hit in the first combat in the enemy phase. So get rid of the damage reduction and then you attack her. And just having the Windsweep and Firesweep effect can help you chip her down. So that is definitely something that she cannot really do anything about. Because she's a colorless unit, then Raven Tomes like Cecilia, Bowie, who are really common free-to-play units, can also help you by giving you the extra damage output. And Deadeye is also going to be helping you, piercing through her damage reduction along with Null Follow-Up. Young Innes can have a pre-charge Ruptured Sky with Time Pulse, and his weapon does have the Deadeye effect. And if you run Null Follow-Up, then he can actually be pretty effective against Fallen Edelgard. And a lot of the faster units who have auto follow-up, like for example, like even Saros, like if you use her in the Astra season, Saros can basically auto follow up because she's going to be faster, and those units who are going to be faster and they have an auto follow up skill or weapon, they can basically pierce through her Weary Fighter because they are going to be winning the speed check most of the time because Edelgard is very slow. So they can definitely try to play her phaser using those effects, but you have to keep in mind that you'll have to survive something like a bonfire coming from Fallen Edelgard, so it's definitely again easier said than done. Quick Riposte can also help you pretty much enemy phaser in that sense if your unit has a lot of attack and can take out Edelgard. Otherwise, you might be eating up a bonfire or just charging up her Gale Force. One of the best ways to deal with her is to make sure that she doesn't transform because she is not going to be getting the distant counter effect. You can basically try to make it so that she's not the last unit that you're going to be fighting in something like Arena Assault or Aether Raids, and just have her beside a non-human ally unless the opponent is running entirely Dragon or Beast team, which is not going to be all that common. Many times they're going to be having human allies with Fallen Edelgard, so basically force her to not get transformed and just trail behind those units, and that way she doesn't get a lot of the effects. Still, it's going to be hard to take her out, and strong Brave weapon users can definitely have a better matchup against her because she only gets the damage reduction on foe's first hit. So the second hit of the Brave weapon is actually going to be doing the full damage, and if you can trigger her special, then it can definitely help you. But triggering special against her is definitely hard as well because of Armored Wall. And then finally, if you have Ruptured Sky, that does give you extra damage output because she's a beast unit. So a lot of these pointers you can follow and try to implement in your gameplay. Again, it is going to be easier said than done, and it's definitely going to be harder to face her, but still she does have weaknesses that you can definitely exploit. Another thing is that Fallen Edelgard does not have debuff neutralization like Brave Hector, who's also one of the best units in the entire game. So debuffs can be really strong against Edelgard, and a lot of times your chill defense and chill resistance are going to be hitting her, which is going to be really good. However, Fallen Edelgard can always run a Unity skill at higher investments, and that's definitely one of her better slotted options. AoE damage is also really helpful against her because she cannot really reduce the damage out of combat, so that can give you some really good damage output. So AoE specials do help, and the bottom line is that try to manipulate her AI so that she does not transform, because if she doesn't transform, then she doesn't get Raging Storm in the player phase and doesn't get Distant Counter in the enemy phase, which are two of the most threatening things on each phases. So you definitely have to play around her. She's not really a very easy unit to check or counter, but there are definitely weaknesses which you can try to exploit on her and try to get around her, especially the transformation condition when she's going to be controlled by the AI. Her budget build is basically going to be her base kit, and she already comes with the attack defense ideal, which is really good because she does get the self-sufficiency, and Armored Stride basically does have good synergy for activating its bonus effect. So that can be really good, and she can many times be at full HP because she's not going to be taking much damage, and then she has the healing. So she can pretty much do what Brave Hector does by retaliating back with bonfires because she's got 2-turn bonfire, and Armored Wall is just a special fighter. Mystic Boost combined with her already present healing is going to be making her pretty stocky and self-sufficient. You can also run Gale Force on her, and Gale Force does stack up with Raging Storm obviously. So what you can have is an Edelgard who can take 3 actions just like Legendary Edelgard, but it's even easier this time because Legendary Edelgard has to use Heavy Blade, which means that she has to meet the attack checks, and that is not the case with Fallen Edelgard here. She doesn't care if she's got higher attack or not because she just gets the special fighter in her slot B. And Legendary Edelgard also needs to be solo, alone, in order to trigger her Raging Storm. Fallen Edelgard just needs to be transformed. Because she's got distant counter in her weapon, you can definitely give her Sylvalan Shield in the slot 8 to just patch up her armor weakness, and armor effective weapons are way more common than beast effective weapons. So this is pretty much the way of patching up one of her weaknesses, which can definitely be pretty helpful in something like Arena Assault. And then you can definitely use her in Aether Raids offense. She's gonna be a really fantastic unit. One thing that Legendary Edelgard has got over Fallen Edelgard is the fact that she doesn't have distant counter, and in many cases you actually do not want distant counter because you don't want to kill everyone. You want to collect the pots, which is really important, but still she's going to be a very good Gale Force unit if you plan well and play well with her, and you just have to smite her into the range of the enemy. Of course, do watch out for the heavy traps and lightning traps and stuff like that, and it's not the hardest thing to Gale Force with her because the special fighter present in her armored wall is going to be making it pretty easy, and Gale Force becomes a 4-turn special, so it's really easy compared to Legendary Edelgard. You don't have to run Heavy Blade or Quick Impulse or anything like that, and you can just run Death Blow and Attack Defense Ideal. Your aim should be to one-shot units because she cannot follow up attack, so try to go for one-shots, but in some situations like against Hell and stuff like that, it's just never going to be possible for her to one-shot them. So do watch out for those kinds of matchups, but in most cases she's going to be turning out to be a really good Gale Force unit, and I feel like she definitely excels more as a player phase Gale Force unit, abusing that Raging Storm present in her weapon in something like Aether Raids. You can also try to use her as a tank, but again, like I said, there are better tanks like Brave Hector or even Brave Edelgard because they can follow up attack. And a lot of the times, not making a follow-up attack means that you're going to be leaving the opponent in the range where Wings of Mercy allies can teleport. So that could be annoying, but still, she can be a very strong tank with Bonfire, and you can get Distant Defense 4 from the Divine Code section from Mufasa, and that pretty much allows her to have really amazing bulk against most of the range units that you're going to be facing. And you can just run Attack Smoke honestly, because Armored Stride is not really needed as she can transform with help of Milla in the light season, and Otter's buff from Peony can definitely help you with the movement, so that can help. If you want to invest a bit more into her, then you can pretty much feed her a Brave Dimitri or Fiarm and give her the Unity skill, and that allows her to get a way of dealing with the debuffs which she didn't have before. So this pretty much gives her another unique effect, and this can be really helpful in both player phase and in the enemy phase. And then if you want to just balance her bulk, then you can go with Fortress Defense Res, and you can definitely run a defensive enemy phase build, just the Bonfire build, which allows you to retaliate back with it. And even in the player phase, you're going to be having that extra bulk with the damage reduction, which is going to be making her insanely tanky. At even higher investment, you can pretty much give her Attack Res Unity, and that can be really helpful in the Astra season, where Mirabilis is going to be debuffing you with the Whimsical Dream, and a lot of times you're going to be soaking up the Dark Shrine, and it's not easy for you to soak up the Dark Shrines for Fallen Edelgard in the Astra season. In the Light season, you have Milla, and that's why I went with the Light season here, because Milla can really help you transform, soak up your chills, provide you the Sabotage attack debuff, and that all can be really good. So Milla can definitely do that, but in the Astra season, a Unity skill helps her a lot protecting against those nasty debuffs, and Pulse Smoke has got insane synergy with Armored Wall because it has got Special Fighter, so the opponents are not going to be charging their specials and you can just pulse them down. And Fallen Edelgard is a really self-sufficient tank in the sense that you can just smite her, have her take out 1 or 2 enemies with the Raging Storm in her weapon, and then just sit there and tank rest of the units. Of course, you don't want to kill every single one of them because you want to collect the pots, but most of the time people are going to be having some kind of healer where she's not going to be taking any damage and she's not going to be able to retaliate back to them. And Mystic Boost really helps you in those healer matchups where they're not going to be doing any damage to you because you disable their Wrathful Staff. Another reason why Light Season might be a bit helpful is that there are not really a lot of turn 1 traps on Aether Raids defense teams right now because we don't have the 7-slot Dark Mythic unit. As soon as that becomes a thing, it can be a bit hard for you to set up Edelgard, let her transform and all of that jazz, get into the positioning to smite her and then destroy everything. So that gets a bit hard whenever 7-slot unit comes out, especially in the Vault of Heaven where people are going to be running turn 1 Dancer traps, so that could be really annoying, and even turn 1 return traps. those are a bit rare in the light season, but still, like, as soon as the 7 slot unit comes out, it is going to be a bit harder to just set her up. So light season is better until that happens. In the Aster season, you also have to keep in mind that you're going to be facing a lot of turn 1 Dancer Trap teams, which means that you can basically not get a lot of time to set up, and they're not going to be giving you a lot of space to set up as it is. So it could be a bit annoying in those situations, but honestly, she's just so bulky that a lot of times she can just tank and then clean up with her Raging Storm. So it is going to be a bit annoying, but at the same time, if you use her with Naga, then she can transform even turn 1 and go from there. You can also use her in Aether Raids defense, but it's definitely a bit awkward because you require a Dragon ally or a Beast ally to make sure that she can transform and get the distant counter effect. And Firesweep can be used in that sense, but I feel like there are better Firesweep armors like Brave Hector and also Brave Edelgard. She's definitely a bit awkward in that sense because after turn 1, if she does not maintain the positioning, she loses her distant counter. So she can still like block the opponent's sniping with Firesweep, but it can definitely get a bit awkward, and it's a lot more oppressive with like Brave Hector or Brave Edelgard in my opinion. But still, that's an option that you could do, and if you want to invest even more into her, then ARD defense res is going to be making her obnoxiously bulky, so that could be done if you can afford it. Fallen Edelgard can be a really good unit to be used in Arena, especially if you have a Dragon unit or a Beast unit in your core, and you can basically use her as a very high scoring unit because she's among the highest scoring units in the game because of having Armored Wall as her slot B skill. She does score same as Brave Edelgard, but here having Armored Wall basically means that she's got a 300 SP slot B skill, and if you combine a 300 SP slot A skill and slot C skill, then you can pretty much score as if she was 190 BST. So she basically has 3 high scoring passive skills right there, and that's really good for arena scoring if you do end up plus 10 merging her. So you can pretty much run her with a build like this, and having to run a 300 SP slot C skill means that you cannot really run Armored Stride, so you pretty much have to fall back on Armor Mart Sacred Seal. You can use any kind of tier 4 skill, but something like Attack Defense Menace from this banner itself can be really helpful. And in the end, if you want to use her with Unity skill, then that can also be done, and Attack Defense form can also make her pretty bulky. Gale Force is pretty much going to be the way to use her because the extra actions are really helpful in something like Arena, and she basically gets 3 actions because of the Raging Storm, so that is extremely helpful. So hope you all enjoyed this video. Make sure to share this video with your friends who are trying to use her or even trying to brainstorm ideas to deal with her because she's going to be a pretty common opponent. And I want to thank all of my YouTube members for their constant support, and if you enjoyed, then please be sure to leave a like and a comment, helps me tremendously, and be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell because YouTube sub boxes are about as functional as a lot of the units in the game when they have to face a plus 10 merged Fallen Edelgard in Arena Assault. So that's it, I'll see you guys next time. Thank you so much for watching and have a great day.